and gentlemen, welcome to episode 95. Keith Andrew, along here with Serah Henesey, and I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Thank you for having me.
Keith Andrew, along here with Serah Henesey, and I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Thank you for having me.
For people who want to know what uncensored is, uncensored's my way to show people that even with a learning disability, I can still overcome controversy and reach my goals in life. At the same time, turning myself into a perfect example for people out there deaf, blind, or in a wheelchair. So you should never label yourself. You should prove to people you can still amount to something. And just basically never have labels. Just prove to people you can still amount to something. Now, is that... Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, I interrupted you.
Now, with that being said, half hour, 45 minutes, you can curse if you want to, and you can talk about anything you want. This is your time. And one thing I was going to say before we started recording, but I can say it now, is the one thing I like about the October theme is every interview, for the most part, that I do, people get to dress up in their Halloween outfits. So, you're all dressed up, and I'm glad you're taking advantage of it.
Oh, I haven't dressed up yet. I'm going to be a pirate tonight. It's still early hours in Los Angeles, and I have another audition to go to. So I'm going to be a cop for my next audition. So I'm dressed up for my audition. I'm not dressed up for Halloween yet.
Well, if you want, maybe we can do like a second part. I would love to see your outfit.
Well, I don't have all my costume here yet. Half of my costume is at a friend, so I got to go pick it up after my audition. So
let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I can just be a cop for now.
All right, that works.
Yeah, I'll recite my lines with you if you want. We can do a read through.
Sure.
You can help me out of my audition.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
I need somebody to read with. I mean, these days everybody's doing like these self-tape submissions. They all want, like before you used to go to like a casting studio and have a casting director read with you, and they put it on tape and tell you yes or no in a couple days. Now a lot of the work we're doing, they're asking us to like self-tape and send our own tapes in. And I'm like, all my friends like work 9 to 5 jobs. Like I don't have like spare people lying around just to like read roles with me. Like, it gets a little difficult, where I do it on weekends, but sometimes they're like, oh, we want the tape tomorrow. I'm like, oh, well, let me just pull somebody out of my hat right now to read a role with me. And, or some people aren't really good at reading them, or, some people are only available after hours, and after 6 p.m. the light's not good enough. Right. And I'm like, dude, I don't have professional lighting in my house. What do you want from me?
Well, I'm a good friend, so anything you need, I'll always hear for you.
Okay. Awesome. You can be my reading buddy.
Of course. Anything I can do to help.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you. Now, starting off, what can you tell me about yourself?
Well, what can I tell you? I was born and raised in Sydney, Australia. And I don't sound Australian anymore because I finished school in London, and when I first moved out to the United States of America, I sounded more English, and all the casting directors told me, well, you sound too British. And I used to tell everybody, well, it's called English for a reason. It's because they speak the proper version. It's not called American people. Anyway, that was my little joke. But, so I learned how to speak American English. I took lessons. I learned how to say can't instead of can't. And, so now I'm going out for more American roles. I was actually a science student in school. I was a little bit of a geek. I had braces and glasses. I was not cool. I was studying to be a genetics engineer when I stepped onto a stage, and I thought theater was just going to be a hobby, and then it turned into my life. And I left Australia when I was 19. I moved to Europe, and I've been a steadily working actress. I was on a #1 sitcom out there for 4 years. It was bigger than Friends was here. It was huge. And then I did soaps. I did dramas, TV dramas. I became quite famous. I've worked in Germany, Holland, Istanbul, and London. I've had TV shows in all of those countries. I also kickbox. I do wire work. I do stunts, which I find a lot of fun.
It's also hot.
Yeah. I like kicking butt. It's good fun. And I also host TV shows as well in between. So kind of like in Europe, when you become a celebrity, they're like, "Oh, well, why don't you host this like talk show for us?" And I was like, "Okay." And I hosted a lot of shows as well in between acting. I've anchored news, sports news. I've hosted entertainment, game shows, a cooking show, my own talk show, all in between acting. So I've kept very busy. And now I'm in LA, and I continue acting here, and hopefully, I love LA. I want to stay and work here. So, I call it my LA hustle. I had 3 auditions today, and like all 3 of them required different outfits, because one of them's a cop, as you can see, a detective, so I'm dressed up as my detective now. The other was a businesswoman, and one of them was 1970s Harlem. I didn't have time to, change in between, come home and change, so I had to, carry my wardrobe around and change in my car. I call it my LA hustle. It's not so glamorous.
Now, do you still have your own talk show, or you don't do that anymore?
I had a film review show for 1 year. It was called The Hollywood File, and so I used to do like press junkets and red carpet interviews, and I got to interview a lot of amazing people like Robert Redford and Steve Carell and Kristen Wiig and Pharrell and just off the top of my head, Julianne Moore, Chloe Grace Moretz, Edward Norton, Ethan Hawke, so Oprah, so Forrest Whitaker, just really, really amazing people. So, it was interesting because I've always been, I was a famous actress in my country, and I was always on the interviewee side. And now doing interviewing, I try to make it interesting, because a lot of the time when you're doing press junkets, you get asked the same question over and over again, and it gets really tedious and boring, and it's just it's just the same questions over and over again. So I try to do a lot of research, and I watch a lot of film as well. I'm a little mini cinephile, I try to make it interesting and ask interesting questions, and I got interesting feedback. I remember when I was interviewing Nick Nolte, I asked him a really crazy question that he probably wasn't expecting, and he was like, "Who put you in here? Did the FBI send you?" So so that's good. You keep it interesting, and so hopefully they appreciate it, and they do. They you can always tell when somebody's done their homework, and so and just interviewing people who are famous here in America. It's doing press junkets. It's kind of the same everywhere, but I just learned a lot from interviewing big stars. I'm a star in my country, but what do I know about being a star in America? So it was interesting. It was a good learning experience. So I did that show for 1 year, and it's just ended, and I had a 1-year contract, and so I'm just looking at new projects and see what happens.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing them.
Yeah, well, I'll send you some clips.
Sure. Now, the next question, I was going to ask you 2 questions. And the first one is, when you were in high school, did you do any sports? And when you were in college, did you do any sports? And were you a party animal or study nerd?
Yes, I did. I ran cross country, and I actually have medals running cross country. I was quite a runner. And I was also in the gymnastics team, which actually really helps a lot with my wire work, because, I can do like flips and somersaults and all that kind of stuff. So when you're doing kind of Kill Bill type wire work, that helps. If you have martial arts mixed with gymnastics, it kind of makes it more, it makes it look more aesthetic. So I did those things. What else? I was always a pretty active student. I remember I ran throughout, and I did gymnastics. Yeah. I tried my hand at... I was good at softball. I played a little bit of softball. I was actually a good batter. I can't throw. I can't throw, but I'm a good batter. I'm a good batter. I was a straight A student. I was top of my class every year, so I wasn't really a party animal. I wasn't very cool, I'm afraid. I didn't party. I didn't drink and do all sorts of, crazy things. I came into that later in life when I kind of modeled a lot early on in my career. And so I kind of got into the partying then, when the braces came off and the glasses came off. And I don't know if I really studied a lot. Everybody thought I was like this geek and I would like stay at home and study all the time, but I didn't study a lot. I just had a really good memory, and I just would remember what the teacher told us in class. I wasn't really a big studier. I just had a good memory, so I was kind of lucky in that sense. But I read a lot, and I read a lot back then. I mean, like I wouldn't do my homework, but I would open an encyclopedia and read it for fun. I mean, I don't know how much fun reading an encyclopedia is, but I thought it was fun.
Right.
So yeah, I'm a big reader. Yeah.
Well, did you ever get the chance? And I would love to hear some more of your accent. But was it hard for you to do the accent, or is it just you got so used to speaking?
You know what? I can't do an Australian accent anymore. It's the bizarrest thing. Because I've been living in Europe, for the last 10 years, and I really lost my Aussie. I speak Aussie when I go back home. I can do a perfect British accent. I can do varieties of British accent. Like I can do Queen's English, because I've done Shakespeare on stage. I've done a lot of stage work. And I can do Cockney. I can do a variety of accents in English, in British English. The Australian I can't do anymore. You want to hear some? You want to hear? Is that what you said?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, I'll recite. I did a 17th century restoration comedy, which is called Way of the World, and I played a character called Lady Fainall, and this was my first opening line. Aye, dear Marwood, if we must be happy, we must find the means in ourselves and amongst ourselves. Men are ever in extremes, either doting or averse. While they are lovers, if they have fire and sense, their jealousies are insupportable, and when they cease to love, they loathe. Cockney, I can do some Cockney for you. You want to hear some Cockney?
Sure.
Cockney is interesting. A lot of Americans don't know what Cockney is, so I'll explain it for their purposes. Cockney is a rhyming slang, and it was kind of first introduced by the Cray twins in East London, and it's kind of gangster speak, and it was formed so people couldn't understand what they were saying, and now it's just kind of become cool and people speak it anyway. But it's fun. So, all right. All right, take me plates and meat down the Frog and Toad to the Rubber Dub to put a pint of beer down my Gregory Peck. Now, you don't know what I said, did you? you're like staring at me going, what the hell did she say? So, okay, like your plates of meat are your feet. So basically you're saying I'm going to take my feet down the Frog and Toad is the road. So I'm going to take my feet down the road. To the Rubber Dub is the pub. So basically she's saying I'm going to go to the pub to put a pint of beer down my Gregory Peck is your neck. So that's Cockney rhyming slang.
Now, for people who want to know what Cockney means, it doesn't mean what it sounds like.
No. It's all rhyming. It's all rhyming, and it's all kind of code. Yeah, it's what they speak in East London, and it's yeah, it's a bit of a lad's kind of language. It's not seen as like posh or anything. It's very kind of common. But I think it's cool. I like it. It's fun.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, like when I first went to London, like I'd go to a pub and they'd be like, "Oi, love, give me a dog and bone," and I'd be like, "What does he want? What does he want with a dog and bone?" And then like dog and bone is your phone, so he's basically asking you for your phone number.
Right.
But it takes a while getting used to, but it's fun. It's fun, Yeah.
Did you ever get to? Well, did you go to school overseas, or did you go to school in America?
No, I went to school in London. I finished acting school in London, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I mean, London's a very expensive city, and I've done London both ways. Like when I was, back when I was modeling, I'd go to, London for work or shopping and partying, and I'd stay in fabulous hotels and be driven around by chauffeurs. And then when I went there as a student, I had to, wait tables and and take the tube every day. So I've done kind of London both ways, and it's a fun city, definitely. I think I really enjoyed being a student there, and the education was phenomenal. I mean, I never really understood Shakespeare or classical kind of works of theater before studying in London. I mean, I've been in theater since I was 16 in Australia, but, we attempted some classical plays, but I never really understood as well as I understood it when I was in London. And I think, maybe because, Shakespeare and a lot of those works hailed from England. I don't know, they just have a better way of explaining it, or it just kind of sinks in, I think it's through osmosis, or being in a part of that, in that part of the country, and going to the Globe Theatre and watching plays there, and just being a theatre student in London was a great experience. I can't complain.
Did you ever get the chance, now going back to the sports and all the activities, did you ever get the chance to do one of those human pyramids, or not a human pyramid person?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. Sorry to disappoint. I am not a human pyramid person. I'm a somersault, cartwheel, gymnastics, I kickbox. I've actually been in a ring and fought too. Broke my toe kickboxing. So, yeah, I am a kick-butt gymnastics kind of person, no pyramids. Cool. I would like to try, though. It could be interesting or fun.
I always wanted to do one if you want to help me out.
We could be like a 2-person pyramid. See, that would be easy. But that would be doable.
All right, we can always work it out. I don't mean to impose on you.
Oh, no. Well, we're a little far, you in New York, me in LA, but we can work something out. Maybe if I land a TV show in New York,
That'd be nice.
Okay.
Well,
excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold.
Oh, you too?
Yeah. There we go. Sorry.
Not a problem. I didn't mean to impose on you.
Oh, no.
No, when you mentioned kickboxing, would you be willing to train me, or you don't train people?
Oh, I wouldn't say I'm good enough to really train. I wouldn't know about training. I can show you some basics, but I'm not like a trainer per se. But yeah, I could spar with you.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I bet you can kick my ass, though.
Oh, it's a lot of fun, and you burn a lot of carbs, a lot of energy. It gets you in really good shape really quickly.
Maybe over the summer.
Yeah.
Now, the next question I was going to ask you is, how was the lifestyle? Was it difficult for you to do the life change, from everything you had from England to America? How hard was it for you to change?
You know what? I've lived and worked in so many different countries. I don't really get that kind of, I'm in a new country anxiety, you know what I mean? Like, some people get it, but I've lived and worked in, like, at least 10 different countries. So I'm kind of like a chameleon. I can live anywhere and be happy. I don't really require, I don't really feel like I belong anywhere per se, I don't know how to explain any better. I mean, Australia will always be home for me because I was born and raised there, and I miss it a lot. But other than that, I don't think I have that kind of, I think the hardest part for me was I'm a very known actress in my country, and I don't have to audition anymore. Like, I get offers. Everybody knows who I am.
Right.
People recognize me on the streets. Like, I don't have to explain myself, And I do a lot of talk shows. I've been in a lot of interviews in newspapers. So everybody knows my background. They know who I am. They know what TV shows. Everybody knows me, And being in LA, it was a little bit challenging because I had to go to auditions and explain myself, and it gets a little tedious because you don't want to sound like you're tooting your own horn all the time, but you also don't want to go to like auditions with like total beginners. Not that I have anything against them. I was a total beginner as well, but once you get to a certain place in your career, you just it's like starting from scratch is a little bit of a challenge because you have to start from the bottom down again. And I mean, your ego takes a little bit of a kicking, but anything that kicks your ego around is good. So I'm not complaining.
All right. Now, you mentioned you got the chance to interview a couple big name stars. Out of everyone you interviewed, who was your favorite?
Who was my favorite? I'm going to say Julianne Moore because I love her as an actress and she's super talented. And I interviewed a lot of people, and I've never been starstruck before. I mean, mostly because I've worked with lots of them, and and I'm a star in my own country, so I don't get like, oh, I'm interviewing a star or anything. And they're just normal people as far as I'm concerned. But Julianne Moore, I was particularly smitten with because I really appreciate her as an artist. And when I went into the interview, the minute I walked in, she turned around to me and she went, "Oh my God, you're so pretty!" And I went, "What?" She's like complimenting me. I'm like, "Whoa, what happened? What's happening here?" And I told her, and I planned to do this before. I said to her, I've never done this with anybody, but I'm totally going to go there with you. And she was like, "Oh, what's happening?" I said, "I'm going to have a gushing fan moment." I said, "I'm a big fan of your work." And she was really sweet about it. So I would say she was probably one of my favorites. I had a funny moment with Steve Carell. I interviewed him for Despicable Me 2, which was a really, really fun movie. And I'm not a big fan of cartoons, but we went to the press screening, and it was 3D, and it was so much fun. And the music, it was done by Pharrell, and it had a lot of great music. It was just like a really happy kind of feel good, thing. And I remember I was literally like, I was dancing in my spot in my chair and singing along to all the songs, in the movie. And I was having so much fun that I actually broke my tooth on a popcorn, and I swallowed half of it, which is not the highlight of the film. It was rather nasty, especially because I had to host a TV show the next day. It was a back tooth, but it was like cutting, and it was really not fun, having a broken tooth cutting into your cheek while you're trying to speak and host a TV show. Not my idea of fun. And it was just like Christmas Eve or something, so all the dentists were closed as well. And anyway, so when I went to interview him, he asked me, he was like, "Did you enjoy the film?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I enjoyed it so much. I was singing and dancing along to all the music, and I broke my tooth and I swallowed it." And he burst out laughing. He thought that was hilarious. And he was like, "Oh my God, that is so funny. We should put that on the poster. We should put you're going to have so much fun watching this film. You're going to eat your own teeth." So, yeah, he was funny. Pharrell was very sweet. I also enjoyed interviewing Pharrell because he was very down to earth. And he was, I have a Turkish family, and there were a lot of protests going on in Turkey at the time. People were, protesting the government, and millions of people were walking and on the streets, and they were getting gassed by cops, and and there were a couple of deaths as well. And it was kind of a sad time, and I was supporting the protesters, and when he found out, I had Turkish family, he asked me about, and the incident had just broken out. It had only been a week or something. It was new. It wasn't like it had been going on for a month and everybody knew about it. It was just newly in the press. And I was surprised that he was very well informed, and he was really interested in what I had to say. And I explained to him what was really going on in the country, and he really listened, and he asked questions, and he was very interested in what I had to say. And I think that shows a lot of character, and yeah. So that was it. Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have any funny stories or funny incidents that happened to you over the years that you like to share?
Funny incidences working, or?
Well, just in general.
I don't know. I worked with some pretty amazing people. Yes, I do. I did a film with Val Kilmer, and I had a crush on him. I really liked him in The Doors. I had a big. I had a big crush on Jim Morrison growing up as a teenager, and I also had a crush on Val Kilmer. So when I watched Val Kilmer play Jim Morrison, I was very smitten with him, and I got asked to be in a film with him, and it was a very small role. I mean, I normally wouldn't have accepted, but I only accepted because I was such a fan of Val Kilmer. And everybody's like, "Oh, well, he's older now, and he's put on, a little bit of weight." And I was like, "I don't care. To me, he's still Jim Morrison. Okay, he's still like hot and sexy, and I don't care, And anyway, the film was filmed in Eastern Europe, and it was kind of like the Cold War era of Europe and of Russia, and we were spies. And I was part of my role was I had to take him to a safe house and prepare him for his next mission, and forge papers and get fake passports and all that, and prepare him for his next mission, and a lot of the actors on set were English as well, so we had a lot of friendly banter going on. We were telling English jokes, and he was a little bit standoffish at first, and then he kind of joined in, and he's actually got a very good sense of humor. He's a really funny guy. I didn't expect that. And I remember there was one scene we were shooting that he had to go in and shower, and then I would have to prepare clothes for him, and get him dressed up and ready for his next mission. And he came out of the bath with a bathrobe on, and and this is me just being like goofy. When we finished the scene, I turned to him and I said, "You know what? I only accepted this role because I thought you were going to come out of the shower naked." I was being silly or funny because I had a crush on him. And he turned to me, and this really English accent, this really camp English accent, really funny. He turned to me in front of the whole set, in front of the whole cast and crew, and he went, "No, sweetie darlings. I only accepted this role because I thought I was going to get to see you naked." and everybody on set just burst out laughing. And it was a little film called Fake Identity, and it was funny. It was really funny. And I just went bright red. I was like, okay, but it was really funny. It was really funny. It was cute. So that was my funny moment with Val.
All right. Well, wrapping up, do you have anything you want to say to your fans and the listeners out there?
No, I would like to wish you all a very fun Halloween. Be safe. And I want to send you all love and happiness and blessings.
You are now watching the Keith Andrew Network.